And good morning and good afternoon, depending on what coast you're on. It's uh, it's the Joe and Boone show. We're going to be talking about selling to credit unions today. But before we do that, we want to let folks pile in. We've seeing folks jumping on here. Welcome to the Wednesday Intermedia, one of the Wednesday Intermedia Contact Center webinars.
That is a mouthful. We can forgive you
Yeah,
for getting
I
that
need to
wrong.
stop doing that. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, I think that we already had a webinar for the day, and now we are following up with ours. So yeah,
2 for 1.
2 for 1, 2 for 1. Those of you who may not be familiar with us, I'm Joe Hurley. I'm on the CCAS marketing side, and that over there is Andrew Boone. He's on the sales side.
Hey, folks.
If you're seeing a window, I don't know if you could even see my mouse, but if you're seeing a window that says video feed interrupted, that's just a ghost that we like to have sitting on the webinars. Not just kidding. That was Andrew, who his feed literally was interrupted earlier. He kicked his modem across the floor, lost his connection, and when he logged back in, his old self was there. So it's kind of just technically a ghost, I guess.
It's a ghost in the machine.
Ghost in the machine. That's a movie, isn't it?
It is.
And a
Or
game.
it's the virtual
A
assistant.
game.
It is a game, too. A good game.
Okay, so 2:32. Let's give the folks another minute. Let's give the folks another minute, and while at the same time, let's gaze at this lovely intro image, which I'm very happy to have found. Yeah, it looks like a credit union. It looks like your corner, like your credit union down the street. Yeah.
Sure. And with and we're discussing financial plans on a whiteboard there. We're
talking about they're talking about
profits.
you. They said so. Joe, they came in here earlier asking for a business loan. Should we give it to him? That's what they're talking about.
I thought it was Joe Hurley came in and tried to cash a really big check, and we had to kick him out because we thought it wasn't real.
Yeah, because it was
a different guy, different Joe.
It's because I had watched Catch Me If You Can last night, and I was trying that whole check thing.
What a great movie!
Yeah.
Do you what's going on with the sweaters? It's April.
So while we're waiting for folks to pile on here, you're probably wondering what's wrong with these two guys with these long sleeve things. It's because Andrew's in Toronto. Andrew's in not Toronto. You're in Port Hope, which is an hour and a half away from Toronto.
Don't give out my address. I don't want fans showing up at my door. You know, there has to be a level of anonymity here.
That's all the fans that you got, man. I am in Kanata in Ottawa, but I'm seeing people coming outside my window right now. It's okay, please. This is hold it for after, okay? It's minus 12 over here. Minus 12 degrees.
No, Joe, a lot of these guys are American. Minus 12 Canadian isn't the same as minus 12 American. I know Celsius, Fahrenheit, but I like saying Canadian American. It's more fun that way. But, check this thing out. You know how cold it is? I had to start my garden indoors because it's too cold to put anything outdoors. So there you go. First world Canadian problems.
All right, so we're up to 20, Joe. I think we're seeing. Yeah, I think we should start. So again, those of you who just joined and didn't hear our intro, this is Joe Hurley. I'm on the CCAS marketing side of the house. We got Andrew Boone, who is on the CCAS sales side of the house. Depending on how good your videos are, you might be able to see that behind me. There's somebody over here. He doesn't have a politically correct name, but he's my assistant. He takes notes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so he's just going to take notes in the background. And today here we are going to talk about how we are helping credit unions improve their customer experience, which is code for how to sell CCAS to credit unions. Because that's what we're here for. We're here to, we're all in sales. You guys are all on the partner side. We're going to figure out, okay, how can we make money here? We're not trying to be predatorial by any means. Everybody, nobody enjoys what's going on outside. We can't go out. We got to stay home. We got to be careful. We got to be safe, etc. All that stuff. There's a lot of hardship going on. But at the same time, we know that we have customers coming to you. Your customers are coming to you with specific asks about how can you help me remote enable my teams? How can I keep my doors open, figuratively, literally, and remain in business while we sit things out a bit, right?
This was a big vertical for us pre-COVID, so it's
Yes.
timely. Again, we're not being opportunistic, as you say,
We're not
but
being opportunistic, exactly. In fact, the majority of this deck that you're about to see here, all the tips and tricks and the sales training tactics in here it has very little to do with what's going on right now. And maybe just one tip to take advantage of all the work from home mandates, but everything else is here is to help you sell from a general perspective. These are broad-based tips on selling into credit unions. And like Andrew was saying, it's always been a big vertical for us. And the reason why, and it's not a vertical by itself, it's a subset of the financial vertical. But the reason why they've always been a big one for us is because credit unions, by design, differentiate themselves from the big banks via
yes.
customer service.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's where
the ultimate challenger brand is the credit union, right? Because they can
that's
never
right.
be as big or compete with the big bank. They never have the same budget, so they have to distinguish themselves differently. And perfect example of how a smaller competitor can compete using customer service as their weapon.
That's right. Okay, so a quick housekeeping note. So you folks, a lot of you folks have been here before. You know how to, how to hit the emoji button to let us know that you're listening, to let us know that you can see us and hear us, and you know where to put the questions and all that stuff. So there you go for that. We're going to throw that in just to remind you. Now on the agenda side, some topics that we're going to cover today. Some actual quotes as in quotes from credit union people that we've spoken to. These are the things that they're saying. We got some top needs. We're going to go through some top needs of the credit union folks and how we fit in. We're going to give you a couple of barriers to watch out for. No, just remember this is a training deck. It's a reference deck. So if some of these slides seem a little wordy, it's by design because we want you to be able to, if you need to copy and paste stuff, if you need to use it in your own email, whatever
Steal
you
with
want,
pride.
exact
Absolutely.
steal with pride. This is to help you guys, right? So yeah, there's conversation starters in here. There's some key features to highlight. We have a couple of examples of success, and the fun part is a prospecting exercise in the end, where we will walk through with you live how to find CCAS credit union prospects for CCAS. Okay,
I'm starting to question what you define as fun, but yeah.
I love that part. Love it.
Yeah, I
So
know you do.
if you guys have been following our webinars, you'll remember some of that content because on the CCAS prospecting and pitching webinar we covered that. But I'm stealing the opportunity to do it again just because I like doing it so much. So some actual quotes from credit union folks, and I'm just going to, name drop some, well, not name drop, I'm going to list some of these. What do they say? They say, hey, with so much data around, there's always a risk of data overload. If I had the right reports, maybe I could gain better customer insights. Andrew, I'm sure you've heard that before.
It's death by data sometimes, right? And some systems can give you a million reports, but if you don't know how to read them and apply them in your in your environment, then they're kind of useless. And so I think, and I remember this is a real quote, by the way. This is why I find this funny. I remember when the customer told me this, and I'm not going to name the platform that they were using, but they could never figure out the data they were looking at. So we actually spent about an hour with them one day going through what KPIs they were interested in, and we unlocked the specific reports for this particular customer so that he could run his business more efficiently. But it's a truly valuable quote or insight that someone brings to the table.
Yeah. We need to prove that we are easier to do business with than our competition. We love hearing that, and they say that often because, well, first of all, they're competing against each other. There's other credit unions that they're competing against, and of course, remember they're competing against the big banks.
They are.
So whatever edge they have, if it's okay, well, you can open an account faster with us, so you can get a loan faster with us, or whatever the case may be, that's an advantage for them.
Communicate on different channels, right? I can send a text to my credit union, get a reply. Agreed. You've got to play every card you've got when you're dealing with against a big bank. Absolutely.
These days, it's very easy for customers to switch banks. If they don't get the service they need from us, that's what happens. Again, there's a lot of competition out there. If they're not getting what they want from you, they're going to cease to be a customer of yours, and they're probably going to write a bad review about you, which is going to make things worse.
I just got offered an iPhone to switch banks, and I'm realizing I'm Canadian and things are a little bit different. But I mean, first of all, I need more than an iPhone to switch banks. Who cares about iPhones? But I mean, that's how competitive it is, right? They're giving you things to come to the bring business to them, waiving all kinds of fees. So yeah, you really have to do a good job.
I'm just surprised you didn't get a frown or a sad face emoji when you made the iPhone comment.
I was going to say it was a BlackBerry, but nobody would have believed that.
Okay, yeah. There's some. All right. So, due to the nature, oh no, I missed one. Customers need to be able to interact with us via email or chat or SMS. Well, that's the whole multi-channel ask, right?
So, by the way, most people won't use email, chat, or
Yeah,
SMS. The stats are really low in those channels. But let me tell you something: if you don't have those channels available, you're going
hmm
to upset some folks, right? And it's
that's
not
right.
convenient, and you're no longer easy to do business with.
This last one is going to sound very familiar. Due to the nature of our industry, we often need to adjust plans every season or randomly when unexpected events occur.
Like
Well,
Guns and Hoses, right? I mean
like yeah,
that completely tore down the phone lines. I mean, this happens. Every call center, every industry has ebbs and flows. One of the advantages of CCAS is that you can burst, you can grow on demand, you could shrink on demand. Unlike the old named agent on-prem model where you had to pre-buy your licenses for a year or two or 10 years. With us, it's month to month, and it's easy to add and remove. And no call center is static for an entire year, right? So I think that that's a really good indication that this person is right for CCAS. What does CCAS mean, Joe? Yeah.
CCAS, cloud contact, well, contact center as a service.
Yeah.
If I was going to say it the other way, it would be three C's. But
Yeah.
CCAS, contact center as a service, it's
I,
just the SaaS version of contact center,
I get in
right?
trouble for,
Cloud
for
based.
for using too many acronyms, so I thought
Yeah,
I'd call
yeah, yeah.
myself out on
Yes.
that.
No, it's a good move. Folks, we apologize for that. If any of you didn't know what we were referring to when we said CCAS, of course this is a contact center webinar. CCAS is contact center as a service, which by the name implies is cloud based, right? So what we're going to do on the next few slides is we're going to just verbalize some top needs that credit unions have given to us over the years of us serving them, and we're going to talk about how we address those. So here's how we're going to play this game. If we could imagine this a game, humor me for a second. Top need: we need to leverage data to assess efficiencies and for reporting purposes. Now, when we hear that on the contact center side, we automatically filter that. We hear, okay, so this customer said they need to leverage data to assess efficiencies and for reporting purposes. What we heard, what we translated that to was, okay, so it sounds like you're very interested in your net promoter scores, your NPS, and when you get accustomed to this lingo, you could start talking like that, and people will think, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about, man. You
Yeah, of
start saying
course.
things like, oh, well, it sounds like you're interested in your NPS scores. You want to maintain your service levels, keep your CSAT scores high, maintain your service. Sound like you know what you're talking about, type of thing. That's what we're getting at here. But on a serious note, when people say that, when someone says to you, we need to leverage data to assess efficiencies and for reporting purposes, blah, 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 our answer is, okay, well, you know what? We got things for you to use. We have a survey tool. You could generate. Well, first of all, we'd be surprised if we have to generate a custom report for you because our canned reports built into the system,
Yeah, with
it's just
thousands.
ridiculous. Thousands. It's ridiculous. Um, Scheduled reports, and we could do this by functional area. Andrew, what am I forgetting here?
I think, when somebody says they want to assess efficiencies, to me, it means one of the triggers is they want to reduce their costs, which, the software can help do. But I look at things like automation, and I'm just going to use a simple example. Instead of people calling in and hitting one for your location and talking to a rep, we could have, for our location, press one, and then there's just a voice prompt that indicates where we are, or for directions. So little things that we can automate inside the phone system, inside the IVR or auto attendant, to take the load off your agents and provide quick answers and support for your customers are really where you can assess, use reporting to look for efficiencies. If you have a report that shows that 5,000 people called this year to reset their password for their online access, well, then maybe you would do something on your website to improve how people could reset their password so they wouldn't need to call. So that's how we use reports to, address efficiencies, reduce staffing, that sort of stuff. On the flip side, though, Joe, I mean, obviously, once you have those reports, it just opens up all of the eyes, right? It's not just about efficiencies. It's about understanding why people are calling and what the outcomes are, and maybe even just individually assessing each individual agent. So now you have your worst agent, they can become your best agent. I mean, that's always
Yeah,
another way to improve as well. Look at that. I'm
yeah.
voguing, by the way, in
I
case you
know.
didn't
I,
know.
I did the
I
same
can't
thing.
help myself.
It's okay. It's okay. But yeah,
I'm
good point.
voguing.
This is such a loaded category here because the reports we're talking about and the data that we're talking about is applicable not only to assess agent performance, but also some other departments could use this. Suppose they're running a sales campaign. They want to be able to know what types of calls are coming in. So we had 3 campaigns this month. The most amount of people calling about our new loan campaign or whatever the hell. So it's just ways that you leverage data to make business decisions and also make decisions in terms of improving agent performance and all that stuff. There's no shortage of data that's available here. The level of business intelligence that we could provide with this tool is insane. So we love when people ask this question, because we know that not only can we fulfill their needs and exceed them, but we also know that we can go deeper than the competition can. So if we get into a bidding situation, well, not bidding, but a competitive situation where, hey, you're up against Hate by Hate or 6ix9ine or whatever, then we know, okay, well, bring it on, brother, because we got this.
Well, we have custom reports, which is something a lot of platforms don't offer, right? And I think that gets you there. Even if we don't know you can get there, we'll get you there with a custom report.
So folks also talk about, on the credit union side, we want to establish a culture of continuous process improvement. When we hear these people talking about continuous process improvement, that means to us on the contact center side, okay, well, it sounds like you're interested in your staffing KPIs, you're interested in your first call resolution, next issue resolution, upsell coaching sessions, and there's a whole bunch of tools that we have available for that. Boom.
Good buzzwords. Very good buzzwords, Joe. Very good buzzwords. Well, obviously, being able to listen to every call, being able to use a scorecard to evaluate your agents, again, to bring them up, right? You got a bad agent, or, I mean, you have 10 agents, someone's worse, someone's top, get that worst guy up. But, in this new remote world, right, because this applies whether you're sitting in an office or sitting at home, we can also do screen recording, right? So we can see what the agent was doing while they were taking a call, and then use that information to improve the agent, use it for training, those sorts of things. And that quality scorecard thing that you added at the end, I mean, that for me is the most important thing, right? Mm-hmm. We have these custom evaluations that you can do against your agents, to ensure that they're saying and doing all the right things, and then use those evaluations to improve, right? Hey, Bob, you got a 6 out of 10 on your evaluation. Next week, we got to work to get you to a 7, an 8, a 9, a 10 out of 10, and then, use whatever items in that evaluation need to get Bob to improve. It's such a critical piece.
Speaking about critical pieces, what about when they talk about, hey, we need to make sure we're leveraging self-serve channels? You were talking about IVRs and stuff like that, self-serve IVRs. Whenever we hear people talk about self-serve channels, we think automation. What can we automate? Do you have, and it starts with some level of assessment and analysis. What are people calling in for, right? You want to get an understanding of that. Are there any calls you can automate? Is it things about your opening hours, your branch locations, your directions, things like that you can automate very easily.
Absolutely. And it's all about not just improving, the customer experience and how efficiently they get dealt with, but also the agent experience, right? There's nothing more frustrating than an agent flip-flopping around to try to find an answer. So bringing everything into that one, pane of glass, so to speak, so that the agent experience is right and tight and your customer experience is now improved, gets you to this, a little bit more efficiency. The big, I guess, story around telebanking, which is still a real thing. I find it funny that people still do telebanking, but one of the complaints we get from the credit unions is that when somebody comes out of that telebanking IVR and they speak to an agent, they have to re-authenticate all over again. I don't know if you guys have ever had to do that. It is the most frustrating thing, right? You spend all this time proving who you are, putting in your first 7 children's birth dates and drops of blood, only to be transferred to another agent to do it all over again. So this is a problem we can solve for credit unions, where we can tie in that telebanking IVR to the real call center, so that a call comes out of the telebank and it's like, oh yeah, hey, Mr. Boone, how can I help you today? I see that you're having some trouble posting a transaction. I don't know, I made that up, but you get the idea. And that, to me, is obviously the big differentiation that credit unions are trying to fill.
Other thing to keep in mind for self-service channels is what happens after hours.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say you have a credit union that wants to have a bit of a competitive edge on the competition. Okay, they close at 8, they close at 9. We're open 24/7. Not a lot of them can see that, but you can see that if you have some self-service channels available. You got a web chat function. You got a really good self-serve IVR setup that handles a lot of different things. Maybe you even have some folks that are on shift to handle calls coming in. But there's a lot of different things that you could do to have some level of automation to enable you to extend your working hours.
Right. not to say that your existing PBX can't do some of these things, but it's complicated and it's not easy to use. And your call center manager doesn't have a degree in Cisco, and not often can they deploy these things. And that's another big differentiator with this software. That you guys know most of this, but it's very, very intuitive and easy to use.
Keep a close eye on churn.
That
So
is a big thing.
banks in general, credit unions included, they're very big on churn. You know,
Yeah.
this is why, you know, if you ever tried leaving a bank, for example, or closing an account with a credit union, you know there's about 16 people who's going to call you to prevent you from doing it and offer you better things.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
they're very focused on churn prevention, right? So when someone starts talking about churn, we start thinking about, okay, well, it sounds like, you know, you're interested in your member KPIs, what's your lifetime value, trends, voice of the customer. We talked about some of the survey stuff before, that some of that could be helpful here as well. But classifications, you know, breaking that down into things like, well, how'd you hear about us? Well, where did you bank before? Why are you leaving us? How many products do you use with us? That type of thing. It's just delving into information that can help you prevent that churn from happening.
Yeah, and for folks who haven't seen the product, and I'm hoping most people have, our classifications is an editable box that opens up at the end of an interaction with an agent. It's highly customizable. It tracks about 10 different data points, and it's similar to what you might see from an Avaya system, like a tally code, or it's similar to a wrap-up code or a disposition code, except the options are interdependent. So instead of wrap-up code 2206, which means one thing, our classifications can be customer called in, had a complaint about this, made this issue, and then the problem was resolved. Or customer called in, needed a lower rate was provided, satisfied customer. And so there's all these interdependent classifications that depend on each other. If I pick this one, I get this one. And it really truly helped. I mean, I say cradle to grave reporting all the time, Joe, right? Like from the number the customer dialed all the way out to these classifications, we can tell you not only who called, who they spoke to, how long they spoke to them, but actually what happened at the call. And this is native in the software, so it's really easy to start building those insights. And you know, we don't talk about this enough. Other platforms are very limited in their outcomes. Maybe the CRM has to be leveraged for that, but we can absolutely tie these outcomes directly to the call record, so it maps easily to reports. 97 people out of 300 today called because they wanted to switch to the new plan. Like that's the level of detail I can get you. Or 62 people called about a modem issue on their cable modem, and out of those 62 people, we discovered 31 of them are using expired software. Like that kind of detail we can provide with our classification. Okay, I'm going to stop soapboxing. You got to stop me, member Joe. I don't like keep talking.
No. This is why you're here, man. This is why you're here. All right. So another top need, they want to use outbound calls for loan processing or account maintenance or communicating special offers. When people talk about stuff like this, they're speaking specifically about outreach. And we
They
have a
are.
fantastic outreach tool in dynamic notifications, right?
We do.
It's across different channels. What is it? What do we do? It's SMS. It's voice. What else is there?
It,
Email as
it,
well.
email,
Yeah.
yeah, SMS, voice, and email, and voice with an acknowledgement component too, right?
Right. Two way. Yeah.
This is not to be confused or conflicted with a predictive dialer, right?
Mm-hmm.
If anyone's ever experienced a predictive dialer, you pick up the phone and you hear beep, and there's nobody there, right? That's kind of the way predictive dialers work. We use dynamic notifications, and we use a sort of a power dialer and blended dialers to make these outbound calls. So, for example, you have 10 agents on a customer service queue, and when there's no calls in the queue, we can feed them some of these outbound calls. You know, welcome calls, retention calls, or or just outbound sales calls, whatever it is you're looking to do. And we can do it in such an efficient way that, again, while your agents aren't busy on those outbound calls, we're feeding them those inbound calls, or we're feeding them the outbound, so they stay busier longer throughout the day, right?
Talk to us about the click to dial function when we have CRM integration.
That is very cool. So and a lot of our software is built open. There's a lot of API integrations, and so we've extended some functionality where customers can embed a click to dial button. So imagine you're in, I don't know, your CRM, your banking software, and you're clicking on Joe Hareday's. You see you're inside of Joe Hareday's account, and you need to call Joe Haraday. Our click to dial button will allow you just to hit dial and initiate an outbound call. And with the right CRM integration, we can even log that activity in the application. So the next agent that comes through and sees Joe's record, it says, "Oh, Joe had somebody from customer service called Joe yesterday," and it's all logged and tidy. I call that, it's a little bit like customer journey. When you have things integrated with your CRM, you get a more holistic view of not just their calls and their interactions, but every single call and interaction that they've ever had. So agents are a little bit more, are able to be more informed when they can see that journey in the past and current in real time. And that's one of the things we do through CRM integration. And click to dial obviously just enhances that as well.
Alrighty, need to rapidly remote enable their customer service team. So this is happening a lot now for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So when we hear that, well, the good news is right off the bat, we established the fact that we're cloud-based, so there's no challenge in doing so. Imagine if imagine some of these credit unions that are using a hardware-based on-premise system. They're gonna have to. It's not like you could pick up portions of it and take it home, right?
You cannot take your Cisco phone home with you. It's just not going to work.
You can't take your Cisco phone home. You also can't take your IT department home with you either, right?
No, it's true.
At least not without their consent. But
it's kidnapping, Joe.
I know, but yeah, with us, then there's the things that you should know when you hear someone talking about that. And by the way, this is again because of what's going on right now. This is a killer use case.
Well, obviously, it's a no-brainer. Right? But the key thing here is all you need is your internet connection, with a browser, a laptop, a headset, right, or some sort of phone. Like one of the credit unions we turned up, who is, we won't name them obviously, but they're in Jersey, and they had a real hard time, obviously, with COVID, and they closed all of their branches as required. But they wanted to keep up a centralized customer service team, so they, allowed all of their agents to work from home with our software, and we actually are routing the calls to the agents on their cell phones. It was a temporary thing to keep them up and running because they could not take their Cisco phones home with them.
Did you guys hear that? Say that again, Andrew. We routed the calls to their cell phones.
So their cell phones. And the funny thing is, even though we're routing the calls to the agent's cell phones, the managers can still live monitor. They can still barge in and whisper on the calls, even though there's a cell phone involved. So the customer experience doesn't change because it's a beautiful thing. I call in, I get my calls answered, but the agents are now able to, in 36 seconds, right, take that call from home instead of sitting in a branch office somewhere. So it really does. I mean, we don't recommend, obviously, people taking calls in their cell phones. That was an emergency thing, but it's important to show the flexibility of the software, right?
Flexibility. It shows that we're doing magic over here. That's really what it is. It's magic. That's what it is.
Total magic. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to get into a couple of barriers to watch out for, right? So we went through some scenarios of some top needs. We went through how we directly address those needs with not only our understanding of those needs in contact center language, but also our feature sets that address those needs. Now we're going to talk about just a couple of barriers. So just imagine that you're walking through a prospecting exercise. You're on the phone with somebody, or you're sitting down, you're meeting with somebody, and then they drop this on you. Oh, well, that sounds good, but we're very concerned about security, and we're not. That is in the financial sector that you're going to get that all the time, right?
Absolutely. Security. Mostly from the IT guy.
From the IT guy, yeah, that's the standard thing, yeah. But the good thing there is that we didn't bother to list our compliance and all that here because it's so lengthy. But the good thing to know is that there's a very easy answer to this. We love when people start talking about security because we have a super simple answer that just closes the conversation and takes us to the next level. And that's by us listing all the areas that we're compliant, right? Andrew, you know about 16 of them, right?
I mean, everybody has a different acronym, but PCI DSS, PCI level 3, these are the most stringent, compliance standards, the security standards, PCI, even more than HIPAA for that matter. And so just almost adhering to PCI gives you blanket coverage. But we have all of the acronyms: PIPEDA, HIPAA, PCI, you name it, we have it, and we can provide scans and AOCs of those scans for customers who are concerned. But the days of having to run your business on top of a Cisco for security concerns are gone, right? I mean, where the records are stored, where the recordings are stored, are all PCI compliant data warehouses. The access can be set up with 2 or 3 factor authentication. It can be as in-depth as you want, but we help a lot of companies become PCI compliant. Things like, because there's still agents out there taking credit cards over the phone, guys, and inputting them into a piece of software. So that kind of stuff is, obviously we help elevate those types of contact centers into a, more PCI compliant regime.
The other thing you're going to hear, and this is just me just being silly here, you're going to hear the whole "if it ain't broke" response, right? And that could come from not only the IT guy, it could come from the business user as well. I'll break down the business user one first. The business user just doesn't want any disruption. The business user, by definition, remember, the business user would in this case would be the head of customer service or customer care or whatever, the person who stays up at night worrying about if the customers are getting the best experience from the bank, from the credit union. That's the business user. And that person also is very interested in non-disruption. We don't want anything that's going to disrupt the workday profile of the customer service team. That's a nightmare. So that's valid, right? And then the other side, on the IT side, you may get a, well, what we have right now is working, and you may say, okay, but can it do this, this, and this? And he might say, no, it can't, but it's not worth me doing, ripping this out and replacing it with something I'm not familiar with. Very valid concerns, and there's more. But all we're saying here is it's best to understand those concerns from whatever stakeholder it is. You can't address them if you don't understand them.
It's true. And I mean, that's a valid concern, right? I don't, it's not. I'm afraid for disruption. Well, we build it in parallel, so there is no disruption.
But wait. Now, I want to stress on that. We have had instances in the past where we've done a parallel install, like a proof of concept type of thing, just to prove it. Say, guys, listen, we will alleviate your concerns about disruption and all those other things. We're going to deploy this, and maybe it could just be one department. Andrew, we always do this. Sometimes we do a piecemeal approach. Okay, well, we're not gonna deploy the entire thing to take over the whole, or your entire operation. We're going to do this one department here. We're going to start off there, and we do the deployment alongside what they have already. So there's no risk. There's zero risk, right? But they get a chance to test drive it. They get to test drive the functionality, the interface, run some reports, etc. And in almost every single case, that works out to our advantage because they realize our stuff is easier to use. It's more flexible. They have access to features they didn't have before. They have different reports, all that type of thing. So the proof of concept approach eliminates a lot of these concerns.
It's a huge one, and like you wrote here on, there's lots of angles here, but I always compare switching call centers to buying a house or getting married. Like, it is one of the biggest decisions you're going to make, and obviously we're all humans. People are afraid of making that bad decision or the wrong decision, so we make it easy for them to make the right decision. We can go over the top of their existing phone system, so you don't have to rip out that Cisco PBX if you don't want to, right? We can do, as Joe said, small little deployments in parallel so that you're absolutely confident that we're delivering on what we say we can do. And then just the plain old fact that we will build this whole system for you in parallel to prove that it works and functions before you ever cut over, de-risks, as Joe said, the entire process. Now you don't even have to worry about what's happening because it'll never go live until it's ready. And so that puts a little bit of control in the customer's hands. I think those are the biggest, absolutely, biggest sort of barriers we come into. But I will say, if there's not enough pain, the customer isn't suffering, right? If your partner isn't suffering and they say it ain't broke, so don't fix it. I mean, if there's nothing wrong, what are we doing?
If there's nothing wrong, they're not going to replace it for the sake of doing it, right?
There's no point.
And we sell on pain, right? So if there isn't a genuine pain, then you're fighting an uphill battle. That being said, I want to be sensitive of time. Here's what I want you guys to be aware of, though. All you partners out there, if you get into a scenario like this, where we've gotten to this stage where we're faced with a barrier, whether it be security or if it ain't broke thing, and you need help, that's what all of us are here for, Andrew. There's teams that handle that. Andrew heads demo desk, and we also have CCAS sales specialists as well. We have business development reps. All of these folks are trained on the product, and we can help you establish whatever angle needs to be, what we need to take a deeper dive on. When we say we need to understand concerns, we can help go down that path. We have the discovery call type of depth to get down that path and help you overcome each and every single obstacle.
Yeah, not everybody speaks contact center, so that's what we're here for.
That's right. That's what we're here for, right? So, conversation starters. I'm just going to run through these because what I really want to get to here is the whole prospecting side of things. It's going to be fun. I'm telling you, trust me, it's going to be fun. So,
I don't believe you.
Can you tell the difference with the various types of calls received? That's a good start because it's in the credit union's best interest to understand the different types of calls that are coming in. I mean, that's one of the pieces of data that you want to be able to analyze and generate reports on, right?
Like a $10 customer versus a $10,000 customer? Is that what you mean?
There you go. Absolutely.
That's one. Sure, that's important.
How does your current call system impact your business beyond the customer experience? What that basically is talking about is, the credit union is comprised of multiple different departments, right? So in other words, Does this have any legs on the sales side? Does the marketing team need to pull reports from this? And so forth, right? This is not just the customer care team dealing with this. They're not the only ones that need to access this system or this platform or these reports. There's other people that need to pull data from it. Do you have call recording for training and or liability purposes? That's a huge one. You know, Andrew was talking about Coach Suite and all those things before. This is part of the whole evaluator tool and all those different types of things that will help you increase or raise the bar on the agent performance.
Our call recording is so good, Joe, that people don't even use the live monitoring anymore because it's just easier to listen to the recording.
Listen, man, our call recording is so good, it's sickening. Okay. All right. Can customers easily access the same agent? Well, this is what we were talking about with the what do you call it? What's the name for that again?
Same agent?
No. It's when you get the same agent, I called you, right?
Last agent routing. Thank goodness Adam's on the call.
Beautiful.
Jeez.
Thank God for Adam. I'm telling you, we lost you. Anyway,
there's a real use case there, right? I speak to you, Joe. You're like, I need your blah blah blah. You're like, oh, cool. I got to go get my passport number. I'm going to call you back in about a half an hour. And I say, no worries, just call back, and it'll get routed directly to me. Our software can allow an agent to let that happen. And Joe is the customer. You just call back, and it's going to hit me direct. You don't even have to go through the IVR. It's a beautiful way to keep that experience.
It saves you, the customer, the time, and it also alleviates any frustration, because if you imagine you're calling credit union and you're going through, maybe a 30-minute call of things that you had to provide them with, or you were trying to resolve an issue, and you have to call them back for whatever reason. And you call them back and you get somebody, and you have to go through all that again.
It's the worst. It's the worst.
All right. Can customer inquiries be easily answered by agents in different departments?
This is a problem for PBXs. So you've got your Cisco. Yeah, you're in customer service. Can I get someone from my finance group to log in and take those calls? Well, let me just spend 45 minutes figuring out how to do that. With our system, you just log in. You just drag that agent over. So it sounds like an easy, but you're talking to the right call center manager. This is a problem that they live every day. Because of those ebbs and flows of the call center, it's not easy to add and remove people in the group. We make that easy. It's just a simple thing.
All right. Can you view a customer's info via a shared database or CRM? Well, you heard Andrew talking about a little earlier about how we integrate with different CRMs and even custom developed credit union platforms. Some of them may have their own thing. There may even be a CRM that's native to the credit unions in general. Mm-hmm. So we can connect, and this is a key question here. If you have this type of database or CRM, can you pull a customer's info from that database or from that platform with your existing solution? Why would you want to do that? Well, you heard Andrew talk about customer journey. So you can be more proactive and more informed when you take these calls. Andrew just called in, and I can see here, because I'm integrated with my CRM or my whatever you want to call it, I can see all your entire case history. Mm-hmm. You see why you called in, why we turned Andrew down for all those loans, all those type of all that type of thing, right? So, okay.
But it's truly, for us, the differentiator. We do free integrations with third-party applications. Just keep that in the back of your mind. So someone comes to you with some crazy CRM, ERP, EMR, whatever they want to call it. Can we integrate? Yes, we can. And I think that's probably the biggest differentiator that you can count on.
Absolutely. And you know what another big differentiator is? When we do that integration for you, there's no charge for it.
No charge.
That is something that the competition cannot match. They will charge you professional services for the integration, and we don't. All right. How do your customers get help outside of normal business hours? And if they can't get help, then shame on you. Are all calls reported on in terms of classifications, etc.? Can you determine if call performance varies between your team members? And can you do it in real time? The real time is an added.
And across different channels, not just voice.
So there's some conversation starters. Like I said, reference deck. Feel free to, we're gonna circulate this after. If you don't understand some of these, or you want help delving into these on a deeper level, that's what we're here for, right? Whether it be the BDRs, whether it be the demo folks, whether it be the marketing folks, whether it be CCAS sales specialists, all of us are here to help push these things through. Key features to highlight. What are we talking about here? So you have someone on the hook, right? They're interested, and you want to start leveraging some of the key features that would resonate with them in the credit union space. Custom IVRs and integrations, secure
Yeah, I
payment
mean,
IVR.
we talked about those a little bit, right? It's so critical to have those two pieces connected for consistency.
Coach Suite, we talked about that too, to improve agent performance. You talk about call recording, screen recording, all that stuff works flawlessly. Outbound dialing features, this is for outreach, right? Disaster recovery. Well, I think that it's. I mean, we always talked about disaster recovery as a inherent feature of cloud, but right now with all this work from home stuff going on, we've proven it time and time again.
Well, that Jersey
And
Credit Union,
seamlessly.
that's the perfect story, right? They have 7 locations, all running on Cisco using our software. They couldn't take the Cisco's home, so they took our software home and routed all the calls to the agents on their cell phones. Everybody wins. In a disaster, we're all up and running, right?
That's right. Geographic survivability. I just like saying that.
I do too. I just like reading it. Let's just move on.
Okay. Dynamic notifications for two-way multi-channel communications. We kind of talked about that. We kind of touched on that when we were, on the whole outreach side of things.
It's a big tool. It's a mouthful, and I don't know if we have enough time, but here's the scenario. If you think about your doctor's office and you get that message from your doctor that says, hey, Andrew, you have an appointment with Dr. Potter, 2:00 on Friday. Press 1 to accept, 2 to cancel. That's a dynamic notification. That's something that we do on outreach. Ours is different because we can do that, but we can also tie into your, whatever application you're using to set these appointments, and we can connect back live to something. So instead of, press 1 to accept, 2 to cancel, it could be 3 to reschedule, and it goes to an IVR. Or maybe it's a, hey, Mr. Customer, you have an overdue balance of $38.75. Press 1 to make a payment, and it goes into a payment IVR. So those kinds of automated outreaches we use DyNotes for, dynamic notifications. And as Joe was mentioning earlier, it's SMS, voice, and email, which I think is really important.
And then finally, we talked about the reporting and stuff. This is kind of like a go-to. It's a go-to feature to talk about in this space.
Because we're
business
so
intelligence, the analytics, the reporting. We go very, very, very deep, and we know that credit union runs on data, right?
Cradle to grave.
Yeah. So we did want to give a couple of examples of some success cases we had with a couple of credit unions in the past month, actually. Those 3 that we listed there. In fact, there's another one, Journey Federal, and you heard Andrew talking about Journey Federal. But just across these 3 guys, we over 125 CCAS seats were ordered. There's more on the go. And there's a common use case across all of them, and that's them needing to remote enable their customer care teams.
Yeah, they don't mess around. And I have to say, like when a credit union chooses your software and your solution to deploy remotely, it's a big confidence booster, right? These guys don't take their security and their customer service lightly. So this is and obviously these were emergencies to a certain degree, but it's opened up their eyes, just like the rest of the world, to how effective remote working can be.
It has. In fact, you reminded me of something. In at least one of these cases here, the credit union were using an on-prem system, and it was approaching end of life. It wasn't the end of life wasn't tomorrow. And for those of you who may not be aware, we talk about end of life. We're talking about a hardware solution that may be approaching the end of its existence, its life, in terms of, okay, well, we're providing you with warranty support and all that type of stuff for this product until the end of the year. So at the end of the year, it becomes end of life, right? You have to find something. You can continue using it, but you're just not going to get
support. Yeah.
There's no more support, et cetera, right? So
no credit union is going to let a piece of hardware go end of life. They're just not going to risk their business to something so mundane.
So we had a situation where they had a solution. It was approaching end of life, of maybe the end of the year or something. They had some time. They had some runway. But this situation prompted them to think, well, hold on, maybe we should make a change now. Let's just start exploring options. And we ended up, they ended up coming to us, and the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Now, this is what we are here for, okay? Prospecting scenario. And it's credit union based, as an example, right?
Well, that's convenient.
So we start, now what we're about to go through here is a step-by-step process on how you can find a credit union prospect, right?
Do we have a lot of prospectors on the call? I guess we might, Partner prospectors?
Yeah. And if you folks out there who are hunting for prospects, then you wanna take a close look at what we're gonna go through here, right? And how, and the method and the process and all that stuff. So, Sacramento Credit Union. It's a real credit union. We didn't want to. This would be a lot harder if we had to make everything up. So we had to base it on something, right?
It's going to be awkward if anyone from Sacramento Credit Union is on the call.
That's right. If anybody is already with them, so it's going to be a little awkward. So let's just bear that in mind. Okay. We started off by going on their website just to familiarize ourselves with, okay, well, you're prospecting. I want to understand. If you're not familiar with them, you want to understand. You want to get your mind, develop some intel. What are we doing here? We're gathering enough intel so we can build a pitch, right? That's what's going on here. So you go onto the website, we look here, we see, okay, on the personal, we see that they're doing, there's telephone banking, they're doing mobile banking, online banking. So there's some different channels going on here, right? So
Yep.
we know, okay, well, these people are pretty sophisticated. They're banking through multiple channels. When you start hearing multiple channels, those are multiple channels for customers to be calling, interacting with you on, right? They're
That's
gonna
right.
need they're gonna need something called a cloud contact center, right?
Definitely could benefit from one.
We have one. Okay. So on their website, we also found a form fill or a contact us page, right? So
Perfect.
what does that say to us? It says to us that, okay, well, there's somebody that's going to be sitting down on the other side of their organization receiving these,
And you know what?
right?
Most people don't realize this, but when you send an email to an organization, it usually just goes into a shared e-box in mail.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then that mailbox is shared amongst a bunch of agents, or there's a manager manning it, and he's manually firing off emails for agents to kind of deal with using Outlook or whatever mail editor. If you can queue those emails, they get delivered to the agent who's logged in, who has the right skill, who's been waiting longest, and you actually have an audit trail of where those emails go, how long they sit in the queue, et cetera, et cetera. So anytime I see somebody with a contact us webpage, knowing that that's converting to an email, that is probably the easiest opportunity to sell a CCaaS omni-channel solution. No on-prem PBX, Cisco, Avaya, whatever, can do an email queue. So you need, you know what I mean? This is something that's pretty CCaaS specific, so it's a great opportunity.
It's a mic drop right there, Andrew. Mic drop. So continuing to go through the credit union's website, we come upon this page here and we find multiple locations.
I had to
And
make
then we
this
find,
bigger.
and then we, yeah, I'm kind of doing the same thing here. And then because my camera is on my laptop, so I have to sit here.
It looks weird.
So now we have multiple locations and we have the same number for each location. What does that tell us, Andrew?
Well, I mean, it's rare that it's like that, but that tells us that there's one central IVR, one central place that's taking all the calls and then sharing them, and that means that there's probably a contact center, or at least a central group of people taking the calls. And that's a great opportunity for us because there's a bunch of different things we can do to help automate that. By the way, it doesn't have to be the same number for us. We can have a million different phone numbers going to the same place. So this is kind of old school thinking.
Yeah.
When phone numbers used to cost a lot of money, maybe. But for me, it's an opportunity to say, hey, there's clearly at least one central location taking all your calls, one central IVR. And, my first move here would be calling that number and see what kind of options I got.
Exactly. Call the number, see how long, if it's an automated response, and fine, and then try getting on to somebody, see how long it takes to get to somebody, right?
You stick in a queue for 10 minutes waiting for talk to somebody, you've got a great story to tell when you finally get to that call center manager. Absolutely.
Then we went and we found that they had a Facebook page. I know Andrew's already laughing because he really enjoys the whole Guns and Hoses event.
I just still can't figure out what those people are doing. Is that a football game?
It looks like a football game, right?
Guns and Hoses, right after MLK Day.
We should Google that just so we have a bit more of a story behind this next time.
Yeah, it could be something completely offensive.
But I promise you, we're gonna be surprised how we use this in the end, right? Why are you wasting time on their Facebook page? Well, I want to see what they're doing in the community, right? I want to see what they're talking about. Sometimes they may talk about certain things that they're doing from like a new branch opened or whatever. They talk. You're gathering intel. Remember, you're gathering intel to put together a pitch, right? Anything helps.
The other thing is just go back really quick, Joe. If on the Facebook page, if they allow customers to comment and send feedback on Facebook, man, how is that getting monitored and addressed? If
that is invaluable, yeah.
Right, and we take those feeds, we send them into an email queue so that somebody's alerted that that there's been a post on Facebook or Twitter or on the gram. and then we route that interaction to the right agent so that they can deal with it. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this. A lot of companies turn this off now because it's so poorly manned. It's typically marketing that deals
That's
with
right.
Facebook, which is a complete miss, because if you ever want anything done, marketing is not the people you want to go to. But so routing these inquiries, complaints, whatever you want to call them, to the right agent improves customer satisfaction. And here's the first thing I look for. If somebody posts on Facebook and, I hate your company, I'll never deal with you again, et cetera, et cetera. If I don't see an immediate, please, I'm going to, call me on this number, or let us address this direct, like some sort of response from the org, my hands are in the air. Like, why are you not paying attention to my complaint? So I think it's really critical when you're doing these kinds of research to see how they deal with that kind of stuff. Do they have a consumer facing page, et cetera?
So we're continuing the path through their website, and we find their About Us page. On any credit union, most credit unions, they're going to list their management team, right? So the whole idea here is finding the person who you think would be responsible for contact center. So we're looking at this list here. Who would you call if this were you? Who would you call looking at this list? Would you call the CEO? It would be nice to start there, but chances are that person's too busy with other things.
If I knew about it, I would call him directly for sure.
If you knew who?
If I knew the president and CEO, I'd call him directly. If he was in my Rolodex, a buddy, sure, he's the guy, right? And give me to the right person. But no, not typically where I would go.
CFO, probably not. Again, that person is busy. May or may not be involved in the decision. Maybe someone who reports to them would be from a budgeting perspective. VP HR, probably not your best bet. VP retail sales and services, getting kind of warm. But look at who's underneath there. Who is Brian Cotton? Brian Cotton is the VP Digital Banking and Contact Center.
It's almost too easy.
Come on, guys. I mean, it's so. So now we know we got to talk to Brian. Now you see. Okay, so this is why you're gathering intel. You get Brian on the phone call. What are you going to say to him?
I'm going to say that I was talking to Bhavin, your president CEO, and he told me I should call you because your call center solution's terrible.
Now you see that's what you call a sales hack. That's a sales hack right there.
Yeah, right? I was on hold for 3 hours, and your CEO told me to call you immediately and figure this out. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's who's got the pain? That's the guy you wanna scare.
Because Brian, he's running the contact center. He has a team reporting to him that handles that. He and the team are in the best position to understand the challenges. They're in the best position to articulate those challenges, and also remember, no contact center deal closes without a demo being done. We want to demo to the audience that understands what we're seeing, right? So that's why you want to zone in on the business user. Now, back to my point. You get Brian on the phone. What are you going to talk to him about? Well, this is not a bad place to start.
It's true. No different than Facebook, right? Your Google reviews.
The Google reviews. There's never a shortage of review sites that you can find. It could be Google, it could be Glassdoor, it could be anything out there.
Everybody has an opinion. Apparently.
Everybody has an opinion. I like some of these actually. I was ready to switch, but got some attitude. Got some tude. Looked up the reviews, super low ratings. This person was already deterred before they even became a customer. That's dangerous. You want to prevent that from happening. The other person goes, I love this one. I love how it starts. I have never encountered worse customer service in my life.
There's a lot of negatives in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next guy goes on and says, I want to thank your call center for helping me make the decision to cancel my accounts with you. So, right, I mean, you get Brian Cotton on a call and you start talking about some of this stuff.
If he hasn't already been fired.
If he hasn't, because he's a busy guy, right? But yeah, this is the kind of stuff you talk. This is the kind of dirt you dig up, and it will help you in your pitch.
So obviously things are going wrong inside the call center. If I had to guess, guys, the calls aren't getting routed to the right people. The people on the other end don't have enough power or insights to help the customers. And I think that can all be tidied up with a better little tight system. Beyond, just managing the reviews, of course. Oh, look at this.
This is the last slide. We want to leave a little time for some questions if you guys have any questions, but I want to go back. I'm just going to go back here. We're going to go back all the way here. Remember when we started this? We started, going on the website, seeing what they offer. We found a form fill page. Andrew talked about the fact that this goes into a pool and it's about all up to somebody to answer it. We found all their multiple locations. They're using one number. We found stuff on their Facebook page, their Guns and Hoses guys. We found their About Us page. We found out who the guy is to talk to. And then we found bad reviews about them online. Of course, we don't bother talking about the good ones, but hey. But this is where it all ends up, right? And again, I'm not going to read this through. This is going to be a reference deck for you guys. But this is where you end up, right? Hey, Brian, if you have to now, you could use this for talking points if you get him on a phone, or you could use it for an email, right? You could revise it a little bit for an email and send an email out. But this is basically a script of how you could have that call. Hey, Brian, I understand you're responsible for member digital services there over at Sacramento Credit Union. Is that true? Yeah. How'd you get my number? Get the hell off the phone. Whatever, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
well, the reason for my call is I want to let you know that we've worked with, this is a key part, we've worked with other credit unions and small banks just like you. You want to make
It's
that clear,
so
right?
critical.
And
Yeah,
if you
it's
could
so
name
critical.
drop some, all the more better. I don't know why Andrew told me to put Jersey Shore FCU. Is that even a bank, a real bank? Why are you putting Jersey Shore in
Well,
here? What's going on here?
you had Journey on the other slide, but it is actually
Okay.
Jersey
Okay.
Jersey Federal. I didn't want to call you out on it, but since you did, now it's your
All
you
right.
know. There you go. But I
So
mean,
yeah,
it doesn't matter. Insert credit union
yeah,
name
man.
here.
That's something. Name drop because it lets them know that it changes the conversation from "Hey, we think we can help you" to "We have helped credit unions exactly like yours many times. Do X, Y, Z, and here's how they benefited from that." Right. So you want to just make them know, "Hey, we've been down this path before. We know where you're going, and we can help you." And
Yep.
you see how we threw in a little Guns and Hoses thing there from Facebook. Hey, how did Guns and Hoses charity event work out for you? And he'd be surprised that you knew about it.
It's
It
true.
shows how good you are at cooking up stuff, gathering intel. You're like a CIA agent, right? Um, I notice you provide telebanking, online services, blah blah blah. Again, you're name dropping stuff that you found on their website. Would you like us to share how we helped other firms with their reporting or making life easier for managers, blah blah blah, aggregating all that traffic? Even if he says, it's okay, we're good for now, he'd come back with stuff like, hey, when it comes to the IVR and tools you use, would you be the best person to talk to if we have some things we want to mention to you? You go down a path here. The whole thing is you're leveraging all the intel that you gathered in this exercise in the form of a pitch, whether it be on the phone or via email. And the
Are you
more
gonna go?
information you get, the better.
You gonna go through the whole script, or
No,
you're
no, no,
fairly?
no, no, no. I just wanted to because again, you guys are going to get this.
There might be some questions. Yeah.
You could go through this at your leisure. I just wanted to let you know how we've inserted all these different things in here, right?
The
So
key before you jump into the last thing, though, the key to keep in mind here is that you're not going to call up somebody and they're like, "I'm so glad you called because I want to buy some CCAS."
yeah, yeah,
It just doesn't work that way. It's a big, long process. It
it's a
takes a little
solution
while.
cell. It's a solution
Yeah.
cell, and it starts with gathering intel.
Absolutely. And find out where they are and they're buying something. They may not need CCAS today, but they may need it next year. They may need it in 6 months. And it's really uncovering where they are in that purchasing process, right? End of
Yeah,
life, about to buy, thinking about buying, et cetera.
and
So
and you know what? Rinse and repeat. It didn't work with this one. Call somebody else. The one thing is that there's lots of credit unions. They're all over the
yeah,
place.
it's true,
There's
especially in
always there's
Jersey.
always ones to target, right? Okay, Adam, do we have any questions from our friends here?
I almost want to look at the audience questions first here. Oh, it went away.
Okay, have we any user cases of financial credit union needing using Dinotes, for example, asked on behalf of Arjun? We absolutely do. You're asking if we have user examples of
So,
anybody
well,
using Dinotes? Absolutely.
previously we had Jersey Shore using it to confirm in branch appointments. It's a very basic use case, but I mean, people are coming in there. You obviously need an appointment to go into a bank, or a credit union, right? So you got a loan appointment. So these can ensure that your appointments are confirmed, backfilled real time, so that you don't have a lot of no shows, right? Which is a really good use case. The other one, Arjun, that I mentioned, or on behalf of Arjun, I should say, the other one was the just the bill reminder, or just a reminder in general. Hey, Mr. Customer, your credit card is about to expire. Call us to renew it. Press 1 to come in and renew it. Like anything that you can automate from an outreach to invoke a callback or a conversation with a customer, Dinotes can be used for. Or in our product name, we use dynamic notifications.
Was that okay? Do we have access to any information that we can send to credit unions to consider us? Absolutely. I mean,
Success
I'll tell you.
cases.
Let me tell you something. I would not exist. I wouldn't have a job if the answer to that question was no.
Correct.
Okay.
And
So we have
you'll know
lots of
it's
stuff.
Yeah, and you'll know it comes from Joe because it has all the same images you're seeing on it
You
that
will
you're
know
seeing
it
on
came from
this
me.
webinars.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So yeah, we have. I'll tell you what we have. Let me be organized about this. Let's say any of you partners out there have, you have sales colleagues or a sales team that you want to help. You think they can benefit from further training on this? We have what we call a vertical sales aid. Vertical sales aid that compresses a lot of the stuff that you've seen in this webinar and goes into further detail in other areas to provide you with the same types of things you saw here, conversation starters, all these different things. So we have sales aids, we have success cases, we have, and of course, all the feature sheets. Like if somebody wants more information on Dynotes, we have a feature sheet on dynamic notifications. So yeah, there's material, no problem. You have material that we
Also,
can provide you with.
if you're thinking about approaching a credit union and you want to, go through a little bit of a master class and research, call your intermediate rep and we'll tee something up and we'll just do it with you, right? I mean, we'll help you come up with a plan to attack that credit union that you've got in your crosshairs. That kind of co-selling.
We have an acronym for that. We call it HVT, high value targets. From my extensive time in the military in Saigon and all those different areas, I come up with these different acronyms, right?
Yep.
HVT, high value target, is what we're using there. And
you
we
also
will come up.
invented UDA. That's yours as
Invented
well.
OGSP, you name OKR, you name it. But yeah, we have a whole program that we will help you run through. Discovery call, assessment, all this intel stuff that we did here. It's all CIA stuff. No problem. We'll help you do all of this stuff to go after your high value target credit union. Anybody else for that matter. You want to go after Andrew? I'll help you go after Andrew.
Yeah, if you need. Did Engelberg Humperdinck ask a question?
Humperdinck is normally a little quiet on these calls. Anything else here, Adam? He's saying no questions from Engelbert Humperdinck. Okay.
That's it. Only 2 questions.
I see somebody asked, why are we so dressed up today? It's because it was cold. It's cold outside, cold. So we put on.
Had to put on a sweater.
Listen, we like to look nice for you guys. Okay, we're trying to put out a professional thing here, right? We might sound like a couple of jokers, but yeah, we're professional guys at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna bring back the Magnum PI shirt next week.
Next week he's gonna wear Magnum PI shirt. I might wear a wig. Who knows? You know, there's always fun and games around here. But listen, we want to be respectful of time. We thank you all very much for showing up today. Today we talked about selling into credit unions. Next week we're going to talk about how to sell into what we're referring to as the multi-service based industries, and we're throwing a lot of different types of companies in there: auto dealers, pizza shops, pet shops, legal offices. It's like a grab bag. Anybody who doesn't fit into a larger vertical, like financial or hospitality or different types of things like education, etc., we're going to be covering in these multi-service based industries. If you want to categorize it, think about it like like SMB focused, right? Because that sector is huge. It's very voluminous. That's a nice word, voluminous.
Very nice.
The seat deals are small, but they add up, right?
Yeah. 3, 4, 5 seaters. Also, these are deals that our competition doesn't play in, right? You have exclusivity almost in these smaller deals, right, which put you at the forefront. And it doesn't matter if you're a 1,000,000-seat call center or 1-seater, you still get all these awesome features, which I think is a nice thing for you guys. And thank you, everyone.
Andrew, thank you very much. Thank you, folks, for showing up.
Thanks, Adam.
And we will see you next week. Adam, thank you. Later.